straight out of USA. He's going to tell us more about himself in a moment. The reason why we wanted to speak to Stoy is this. When it comes to living a life, you can live a life of what I call mediocrity. But if you really plan your life, you can live a life of abundance and prosperity. I'm talking about money, career, wealth, whatever it is that's important to you. So Stoy, welcome, welcome. Thank you for jumping onto the Business and Wealth Show.
Mac, I appreciate it. I really do. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So Stoy, for those of people who don't know you, tell people, the audience here a little bit about your background. What is it you do currently?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm again born and raised in the United States, smack dab in the middle. Usually people call us the flyover states, meaning when you're going from coast to coast or to the south, you kind of just fly over our states. But I grew up with a lot of us grew up, right? Usually with a family that isn't wealthy, isn't rich, isn't well off, and they're learning their own way. I knew early on I wanted to help people because I felt like there was a disconnect from the ultra wealthy and, our lower middle class. But I didn't know what it was,
Mm.
right? I used to think it was literacy or education. Nowadays, specifically after COVID, I mean, we have the ability to get information anywhere, right? Podcasts, for example.
Right.
And I recognized that it had more to do with the people's mindset and their emotions and where they're at and what trauma they've gone through to really do that. And so I started in this industry about 13 years ago, selling life insurance, trying to figure my way out. But through different businesses and things I've learned, I launched Black Mammoth in 2020 and really recognized that that's what I wanted to build. So we are a modern family office. We are here to be your right hand. We are here when things go poorly, that we're here. When the things go great, we're also right beside you because we all believe that you need to have someone you trust no matter what happens in life to guide you through life. Not necessarily just always about money, but
Right.
this giant journey of life. You need someone that you can trust that can help guide you.
Well, thanks for that. So what does Black Mammoth do? What do your clients pay you for?
Yep. So our clients specifically pay us for consulting and financial planning. Majority of my clientele base are women or minority business owners, and we have obviously different tiers to our service, but our full-fledged service is going to be where we're setting up your bill pay, setting up your travel. We'll help you get all the lending and walk you through anything that deals with money. So if you need a new car, we're going to go find it for you, set up a test drive, have the lending ready to go. So when you're like, that's the one I want, you just sign, you're good to go. Same thing with buying things as well. And then we vet out all of the other vendors or professionals in your life, right? So if you need an attorney, an accountant, if you need to learn something else because your business is going to a foreign country,
Mm.
we step in and we're going to vet that and figure it all out for you. So that way you don't have to do all that heavy lifting. You can focus on your family and your business that makes you money. So they pay us that way for a consultant side, and then we do normal financial planning, right? We need to make sure you're investing. We need to make sure your money's working for you on
Right.
top of that, but it all comes together and is integrated into one.
Love it. Excellent. So someone comes and sees you and says, look, my financials are not in order. I have a dream, aspiration of something greater. Let's say legacy. I've just had two children. I'm thinking about what's the future for them. Do you have a process that you take your clients through in terms of fact finding or really build before you even build a plan that they can step into? What's your process if you do have one?
Yeah, I love that you asked it and proceeded with like before the plan, because we talk about this a lot in my circle of planners is the plan is the plan. Like that's somewhat the easy side. It's
Mm.
everything before that. And so first of all, I want to let everyone to know that a lot of us are disorganized from as people. We're all disorganized. So not everyone has all their financials in order. So I'll start with that. But first we sit down and I always ask them one question first, and that is, what's your first money memory? What is that first thing you remember about money? And some of us, it's a traumatic event. Some of us, it's a glorified event. Whatever it is, that when you were a child is ingrained into how you deal with money today. And so
Right.
we need to know where you come from before we can even start to get to where you want to go, right? So we take that emotional side first. We're going to work through and figure out, what kind of goals you are, what type of person you want to be, what your legacy wants to be first, right? And that is all before we are looking at anything that deals with a number, because ultimately you are who you are. I don't care what everyone says about when you should retire, how much money you should have saved, what you should be doing, right? The media loves to say that. It doesn't matter. It's about your journey, your wealth journey and your life journey. And so we really hone in on the emotional side, and people cry, we get upset, but we have to build all the way down. From there, then that's when we can start to build the plan, because we've gone through the emotions. We know how you operate, how you operate, and you know what your true purpose or legacy wants to be. Then the plan's easy, because then it's just tying it into where you want to do, right? If I wanted to, for example, have my 2 kids take over my business, all right, we're going to set it up to that way. When it's time, it's very easy to do. What that allows you to do is all the decisions that we have in life, you already know the answer to, right? I can say no to you because, hey, I don't have time for whatever you're asking me to do, because my plan in focus is on whatever that legacy is.
So it makes sense in what you're saying. What makes someone trip over the line and say, I've got to speak to Stoy Hall? What is there a life incident, a situation that triggers them to think, what is life going to be like in the next few years if I don't fix this, if I don't handle this financial situation?
Honestly, majority of people end up having some event that happens, whether that's having a baby, getting married, a death in the family, their parents are getting older,
right?
Started a new business, bought a new business. Something is causing them to be overwhelmed and have a bunch of anxiety. And that's usually when it's time for them. They think it's time to reach out at that point, right? I would rather have it well before that, but we're humans, right? We go off our emotions. And so usually it's when something like that is going on and they feel as if they have no other option, they have nowhere to turn, they're by themselves, they feel alone, is usually when they take that first step forward.
Excellent, thank you. In my experience, the whole financial world predominantly sets up for the elite. How did you become, if I can say that, financially literate in that world to be able to provide such a service to your clients?
A lot of research and education, right? Whether it's I got my CFP, my degrees in finance as well, but I really studied the family office.
Okay.
If everyone wants to Google that and look that up, the traditional family office is usually designed for those that have 25 million or more of net worth. But I kept fighting against that of like, why is everything we do in the financial world for the ultra wealthy? Like, clearly they're good to go. No matter what they do,
Absolutely.
they'll figure it out. But like the rest of the 99% of us, like, what about us? And so I just was like figuring out those concepts and really pushing the envelope of like, what is different? There's not much different. Access is the biggest difference, right? So different types of investments, different types of professionals that can guide them in a certain way. What is the biggest difference? Luckily, and I say this, as I do, the pandemic and COVID has changed our industry dramatically.
Okay.
It has given people permission to do other things and figure it out for themselves. And I don't mean that like from a retail perspective. I mean that from us as professionals too. I can now be virtual. I can now tag in with other people who are wanting to help others and take these giant concepts and bring them down to, everyday people, which is possible to do. And so you're starting to see a shift in this industry not away from it, but more light to the rest of us of what the ultra wealthy are doing and actually how to do it.
Wow. And that's pretty rare for someone like you to say, hey, I'm going to set up a family office. And this is what you went ahead. For those who don't know what a family office, can you quickly explain that very briefly?
Yeah. So very quickly, a family office traditionally is usually when a very ultra wealthy family has, all the wealth. There is a team internally that takes care of all their needs, right? So they go as far as have in-house accountant, in-house law, lending. A lot of them have chefs and butlers and all that stuff and set up their travel. So that way the family doesn't really have to do anything. They just do whatever makes them money and they live their life, right? So that's a traditional side. It's usually private. You usually don't know anything about it. So just out there, almost all the ultra wealthy are right now have a family office. So if you don't hear of them doing something, it's being done on the back end. So that's what it is. How do you scale it down is the question. How do everyday people get that? And there's different pieces of that service that you can get that you don't have to be worth $25 million or more. We can do on an everyday basis.
I love it. Fantastic. This is the first time I've heard of someone actually breaking it down and helping the masses with the same kind of concepts. That's why my team said, look, we've got to speak to Stoy. We've got to get Stoy on the podcast because he's changing the game. Can you say anything around the psychology of wealth creation? Because it's a totally different thinking. Because most people have the thinking that the old traditional way of go to school, study hard, get a good job, and hopefully you'll be okay in the future. The job will look after you. We know that it doesn't work that way anymore. And to create the life you want on a financial level takes a different level of thinking. I'm speaking from my own experience, coming from over $100,000 in debt and struggling and figuring out how to become a multi-millionaire. It was a journey, and I put all the pieces together. I took that journey, and that came to fruition. So much so I wrote a book called The Millionaire Moment. The moment that suddenly triggered me, I said, no, I can't live like this. Something needs to change. But what kind of psychology do people need in order to create the kind of wealth or financial success they really look for?
They have to figure out who they are. And I'm sure that's what your moment was, right? Like, I can't be doing this anymore. I got to figure out what my purpose is, who I am, so that way I can do whatever journey you want to go on. But if you can't figure that out for yourself, then, you're going to be battling that the whole time. And what do I mean by that is usually when we were taught, like you said, go to school, get your degree, figure like that normal stuff, is a lot of us fight against that natural progression because it's not who we are.
Right.
You got to figure out who you are and what you want in life. There's a journey and a route out there for you. I can promise you that, right? Whether that's you want to be an athlete, business owner, right? Whatever it is, there's a route out there for you, but don't just follow the norm of what's being said to do. Figure out what your purpose is. Once you figure out your purpose, all of your energy is there. It's very easy once you have your purpose to not get off track and be like, ooh, that's shiny. Let's go make money or try to make money here. Or that's a quick get rich quick scheme. Let's try that.
Yeah.
Doesn't need any of that. Your purpose is defined and your journey then continues. And, to attest to you, which I'm gonna have to get your book and read it, it's a journey, but you stayed focused on that purpose and you found out who you were in that moment. And now look at you.
Thank you. Listen, what is true wealth? I know people define it differently. How would you define true wealth, Stoy?
Yeah. True wealth is defined by your happiness and your joy. Okay. Being able to give back to others, family, friends, others, and living life on how you want to live your own life, right? That doesn't mean money. It has nothing to do with money. Money is the tool to achieve some of that, but that is not true wealth. And I say the story all the time is when we traveled to Tanzania and we first landed there, not only was the ceremony amazing, when we were busing to the hotel, just saw women out there sweeping their mud floors, basically in darkness because they don't have lights. And it hit me, it was like, they're sweeping mud floors. Like, why would you sweep mud floors, right? That doesn't make sense. Sorry, dirty. But that was their home, right? And they would smile, they would wave, the kids are joyful. That to me was when I figured out what true wealth was. They don't have all the money. They don't have all the things most of us have in nowadays. But they're happy, they're able to give back, and they're living a very joyful life. That's true wealth.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean. Having spent a lot of time in Africa, I know exactly what you mean. The kids are running around, they're doing their thing, they're happy. Yeah, and often it's not about the money. It's about living, just living, just like an animal would live. Doesn't have to think about, hey, what's going to happen? The squirrel's not going to be thinking, what's going to happen in 2 years' time? Have I got enough nuts stashed anywhere? So I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. You came from a place of, as I read, no financial literacy. You said yourself that you studied this stuff. You went to college. Your degree was in financial. You said it was a financial degree.
Finance. Yep.
Finance. For the ordinary man who's been programmed, and I use the word intentionally, programmed to believe the system and to believe the news and believe all that, how do they start changing their mindset to have better financial literacy in order to create life on their terms?
You've got to, as much as I say this, you got to cut out what you've learned. You've got to tell yourself, I need to relearn. I need to relearn this. Now, there's some great things in what we've been programmed. Okay. Don't get me wrong. There's some good basics, but you need to refocus on what that is, because typically we've been told that go get a good job. They'll treat you well, get a good salary, live your life forever. That's not necessarily true. The game is different, right? And that game is they are leveraging you as a human to make them money.
Right.
And that's all this game of money is. It's either leveraging banks, right? Using their money to make me more money, or leveraging other humans and using their human capital to make me more money. That's the game. That is simply put, in the money game, that's all it is. So either you are going to be leveraging banks and other people to help you grow, or you're going to be the one being used as leverage to help someone else grow. And when you can understand that part and you understand it's all a game, it'll help take some of that emotion out when you're working somewhere and you're not getting paid what you're worth, right? You go into saying, I need a raise, and they're like, oh, we'll give you a 2% raise, but you know that your value to the company is 10x, or whatever it is, right? You start to recognize those things, you'll start to see this world a little differently. You'll start trusting things less, which is a good thing in this perspective, because you recognize that you need to be the one that leverages others in the banks to make you more money. And I know that leverage word might sound like a very cruel term when you say leveraging humans, but I mean, think about it. If you have a business, you have to have staff to work. That's just how this thing works. But it's, are you using other people's money to make you money on top of that?
Love it. You're listening to Stoy Hall and Mac Attram here, discussing all things wealth creation, financial planning, mindset, psychology of all, and that goes with it. Remember to like, share, also make a comment. What are you picking up right now from what Stoy is saying? Certainly I'm learning as well. Now, Stoy, I want to ask you this. As you were speaking a few moments ago, it triggered me into 20 odd years ago, 20 something years ago, when I was struggling and things weren't going well. And if there was no podcast then, but if there was some kind of information, I came across Stoy Hall. And that time I'm over 100 grand in debt, struggling, trying to piece things together. How do I change a situation where my wife is pregnant with our second child? My business partners have cheated on me. They've siphoned a lot of money from the business. I'm borrowing money on credit cards. I'm taking out loans so that I can keep my business going, feed my family, look after myself. And I mean, it's a mess. I'm in a dark place. I'm at the lowest. And then I come across Stoy Hall. What could Stoy? I'm saying this because if there's anyone listening right now and thinking, well, Stoy, this sounds good, but you don't know my situation. I'm financially in a mess. What would Stoy and his company and Black Mammoth do, or what could they do to help me to change that situation for the better? And whether that's a few months or a year or 2 years or 3 years, but is there a path that I can follow that will help me to do that?
we first would listen to you and your story
Right.
and get to truly know what's going on, both like from the numbers perspective and where you are at emotionally and what's going on. We would first start there, right? And we would listen. Then when we're finally going through that, I'm going to use my entire network and our resources, because that's what we do, and help figure out a path out of there, because there is one. It just might take a little time to figure that out. Once we figure out that path, then that's where we've understood where you are emotionally, and we can say, hey, Mac, this is the path. This is how you can get out. It's going to take dedication, time, and it's going to take this journey, and we're going to be right next to you the whole way. And once we're in that thing, we're in that thing. And when you have bad days, just call me up, call Stoy up, and just lay it on me. Just talk. That's what we do for our clients. I'm here 24/7, because sometimes I don't answer the phone, but we're here to listen and to just be part of this journey with you. And ultimately, that's what you need. You're not alone. Don't care where you're at. Don't care how much debt you're in, the situation you're in. You're not alone. There's others like you. Okay. And it's just a matter of taking that first step and having a team to support you and get you out of that some way. There is a way.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you're listening right now, maybe you're not in a good place, and I suppose it's just a conversation to establish whether you can help the person or not. Is that right?
Yep. And if I can't, it's not a fit for like my firm, my makeup.
Yeah.
I've got a whole team of vetted partners that I can introduce you to, and let's have a conversation with them too. Because I know I'm not a fit for everyone, and not everyone's a fit for you either, Mac, and everyone else. But I really strive to build a community of vetted people that I know, hey, if you're not a fit, we're not a fit for each other for some reason, then let's go introduce you to someone who is, and make sure that that team also takes care of you.
Thank you. Most of your clients, are they business owners, executives, professionals? What's the makeup, or does it not matter?
Yeah, it used to not matter, but then we all have niches. We all figure out like, hey, these people we love to work with. About now, it's about 95% all business owners, small business owners, is what that makes up. A couple executives, but really it's that small business owner, is really where I work with, just because of the complexities and the emotions. As a business owner myself, I can relate.
You can relate. Tell us, one of the things that I read is that you're talking about the future of work and wealth. With the advent of AI and possibility, I don't know, people maybe not losing it, maybe losing their job, but having to transition and all this kind of stuff. What are you seeing, or what are you predicting the future is going to look like from a work and wealth perspective?
It's going to be, I actually think we're starting to see it now. So let's just back up. I think since COVID, we've started to see the shift of obviously things going more virtual, but people taking more control of where their assets go and how they're going to live their life, whether that's they're going to travel more, be more peaceful, right? We see it already. There's a lot more virtual offices and no in-office things. I think we'll kind of revert back to going into the office a little bit. It'll be more of a hybrid, but people wanting to have control of where their money goes and where their dollar goes is going to transition from all these institutions just saying, hey, invested in this, it's great for you, set it there for 30 years. It's going to transition to them wanting to invest in things that they're actually passionate about. I just did a poll on Twitter last week, I believe, from my guest on my last podcast, and it basically asked, and it listed off like three things. Would you rather invest in, your favorite sports team, a vineyard, or the next great tech stock? Right. And it was like 47 or of the like 15 votes, like 9 of them were, I want to invest in my favorite sports teams. People don't understand that they can. People don't understand that you can invest into the things that you're passionate about and that you care for, right? Which gives you a better return than just like a 10% return, because that gives you a feel good return that like you can't put a number on that. And those are the things in the shift that I see happening, is more access for all these people out here to say, I want to invest in XYZ because I'm very passionate about it. And whatever that is, I want to succeed. You're going to see that movement and all of that access happen. And I'll tell you this, that's what the ultra wealthy have been doing for eons. That's right. They invest in things that they're passionate about, and they invest in their friends. And at least in the United States, we've had this accreditation rule and no access. And that's what I mean by it is usually you have to be worth $1 million and making $200,000, $250,000 to even have access to these things.
Right.
And I'm working with teams and stuff like that. We're bringing the access to the people. So that is what I see the biggest shift happening in our industry, aside from hopefully everyone having a modern family office. I see us being able to actually invest in things that we're passionate about.
But you heard it from Stoy. He's changing the game. He's changing the game. Make sure you're telling people. Now, listen, final question is more around, because listening to you, I can see you are more, someone may listen to you and think, oh, he's a financial planner, he's a financial advisor. But listening to you, it's more than that. For our audience listening in, how would you differentiate what you do compared to what the financial advisor or financial planner does?
Yes. And this is the hardest thing I can do, right? Because, we got regulations. The SEC is always trying to keyhole us. But traditional advisors and planners are going to focus on the investable assets that you have and making sure that those do better for you. Really. They're going to ask you for more money to invest. They're going to try not to allow you to move money out. And they're going to focus on your investments and get you, a return that beats the S&P 500 or whatever, right? That's what traditional ones are going to do. I flip that on the head. Again, I think that money and investments are a very just small tool of what you need to do. We focus on who you are, your emotions, your path, your journey, not what the masses are going to do. None of that matters. And I've polled my clients before and I've asked them, do you care what return you get on your assets, or do you care that you reached whatever goal you wanted? Guess what? 100% of them said, I just want to reach my goal. I don't care what the return is to get there, right? So again, that means people care more about their end result than they do if you get 10%, 5%, or if you beat the S&P 500. That is just driven by the media and institutions to really pigeonhole people just to focus on their investments, when really they should be focusing on their financial decisions.
Wow. Awesome. Listen, Stoy, how do people get hold of you? People want to reach out to you. What's the best way?
Yes. Best way is obviously any social media platform, right? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever you want to be. I'm out there, except for Reddit, because I got kicked off that. So we can talk about that later. But also my website, blackmammoth.com, or you can jump over to my podcast at nobswealthpodcast.com. Only ask I have of everyone is just interact, engage, comment. I'm here to talk publicly if you want. I'm also here if you just want to do a private conversation. But I believe we need to start having these conversations in the public that are real and not just driven by what media is telling you to do or some of these social media influencers. I want to have real hard conversations with people. That way we can really, truly help you.
Perfect. Excellent. So we will put those details on the footnotes of the podcast. So thank you so much, Stoy. Thank you for sharing so candidly and just openly and transparently, so people can see there is a way. If things are not going the right way, they have visions and aspirations, there is someone who can help them in the name of Stoy Hall, blackmammoth.com. So listen, I want to say thank you. Thank you for jumping on, and wish you the best of the rest of your day. Everyone listening in, thank you for listening in, and make sure you make some comments, subscribe, and follow, depending on which channel you are on. Stoy, thank you.
Thank you, Mac. Appreciate you.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome.